Hey, how you doing out there, folks? What do you think this is? You probably know by now. This is the Invisible Man versus Merrick Bank and the Robot. This is part 8. You probably didn't even know there were 7 other parts. Well, that's okay. I'm going to discuss here harassing phone calls. I know it's not a subject that you hear too much, but it's something I think that you should know about. Because I've been bringing this up now for over, I'd say about a month and a half. Because I feel that I'm being harassed by Merrick Bank. And it's for a bill that I really don't owe. That's the funny thing about it. So that's what gets me. Okay, let me go back a little bit. In 2018, me and Marie are at home relaxing, and I said, let me go get the mail like I always do. So I went down and got it, and I looked through it. I took the mail that was for me. I said, here's a letter for you, Marie. She said, okay. Yeah, her lack of interest was really at an all-time low, and mine wasn't much better, but, we're trying to make the most of it. So she opened it up and said, we looked at it for a while, and personality, started changing, And she said, Frankie. I said, what is it? It sounded good. She said, oh, Merrick Bank. She said, I never heard of them, but I don't care. They want to give me $600 credit. I said, all right. She said, well, it says double the credit line. She said, I don't understand it exactly. I said, well, let me look it over. I looked it over, and I explained to her, if we make 7 on-time payments, they'll double the credit line. That means after the 7th payment, your credit line went from $600 to $1,200. She said, wow. I said, do you understand? She said, yeah. Does it mean if we make another 7 payments, it goes up another $600? I said, no, it's not working that way, Marie. It might be a good idea, to do, but it just means double, not triple. She said, oh, I understand. See, so she was thinking all right there, Okay, so I said, how do we want to do this? She says, I want it, Frankie. I want it, no matter what. I said, okay, well, it's in your name. So I go ahead and set it up on the computer because she didn't want to do it by phone. I set it all up with the keyboard and all. And I set the cursor, I said, Marie, you know all the information. She said, oh, yeah. She's very alert now. Okay, so she filled in all the information and got to the point where it says authorized user. And she said, oh, yeah, authorized user, that's you. So she knows what it means. So she put my name in, and I said, because we share all our things, including that with the cards and all. So I said, okay. Now she said, what else? I said, well, there's a disclosure here. I read it. I said, do you want me to explain that to you? You got to check that. She said, check what? I said, you have to give them permission to call you on the cell phone, to service the account. And they're using an auto dollar. And text messages too. So he said, okay, it's all right with me. I don't care. I said, you sure now? Just what if I don't want to check it? I said, if you don't check it, they're not going to give you the card. He said, what? They can do that? I said, I guess they can, Marie. They're issuing you that credit. They say that if you don't, give them permission, they'll rescind the offer. She said, I don't care. She checked it. I want it. I said, okay. Then she went down and said, you have to hit submit. So she did, and she said, what happened? I said, it went in. It's in the system now, because since, the email that I used, when I looked it up, an email came right back. I checked. I said, look, Marie. She says, oh. It says, congratulations. Your application has been approved, and you'll receive your cards in 7 to 10 business days. I said, wow. I said, that's good. I can't wait. I said, okay, Marie, calm down, no problems. You should get it. Okay, so in the meantime, I said, while we're waiting, in the next couple of days, I went over everything with her because I know she hasn't been ordering stuff over the phone. And I asked her, what do you want to order? She says, some things I've been seeing, on the phone, on the TV. And she said, not too much. I said, it's okay, but make sure when you order, don't give your personal information, your social security, date of birth. You don't have to give none of that. He said, what happens if they ask it? I said, if they ask it, you say you're not giving it. Because you're not supposed to. You have a credit card. And they have all that information. You just gave it to Merrick Bank. So when you give the card number, they might ask you the name on the card, the expiration date, and it's a security code on the back. You might have to give that, a 3-digit number. So she seemed to understand. I went over this a lot. I figured, well, while waiting for the card, or cards. So I used to wait a couple of days. I said, Maria, I'm going to ask you, some of the things I told you. She said, okay. I asked her, and she told me. She understood everything. I said, okay, good. So it was about a week, and I got the mail, and I said, uh-oh, I see. I knew it right away. When there's 2 cards, you can tell right away. That's a post office box or something on it. Okay, so when I went there and brought the mail, I said, here, Marie, you know what this is? Oh, Frankie. Oh, I can't wait. She opened it up real fast, and she said, oh, 2 cards. Look at that. One for you and one for me, and, it's the design that I picked. I said, yeah, you could, pick any design you want. They had a lot there, so it was an eagle with a flag. So we each had a card. I said, you should sign it. I'll sign mine. Now we're all ready. Now you can order. If you order anything, make sure you let me know, because I got to start the payments right away. I couldn't, to make sure. Okay, so that was all right for a while. And I explained to her, be careful with that, She said, they're not calling. I said, they're not going to call, Marie. There's no reason to call. As long as they get those payments, they're not going to call. So she said, okay. And we used it and all, and I paid other bills with it and all. No problem. The time passed. And I said, Marie, this is the day the credit went in to double the credit line. Oh, Frankie, you have another 600? I said, yeah, but remember, we've been using, the first 600. So it went in and we used it and all. Then all of a sudden, we started to get sicker. I don't think all the credit cards in the world was going to make her get better, but I got her into the hospital, not too long. They took a lot of tests, and they said that she needed long-term care. She's got Alzheimer's, dementia, anemia, respiratory distress, a lot of things, and they're getting worse. So then we got the nursing homes, got her in there, and I was glad she was, hanging in there. It wasn't bad, Even though her condition, you believe it, when I used to go see her, she'd ask me, you still paying Merrick Bank? I said, oh yeah, no problem. She remembered that. I was surprised with all the things. I said, yeah, whatever you want, you just tell me and I'll get it. So I used to bring her things and all. And then, after the first about 4 months, she actually was starting to get better. She was talking better, looking better, getting around a little bit better. Then in the next month, I started to see her coughing and congestion and slowly getting worse. And finally, I'd say, by the end of that month, that 5th month, she was still hanging in there. I tell these, the people that work there, they say, oh no, don't worry. We got our medications and all, we're making sure, and anything, let me know. So I went to see her a Thursday, a Saturday, and a Monday. She seemed about the same because it was close together. So I figured, well, I waited a few days. I figured she should be about the same or a little bit better. No, she was worse. When I went to see her, she was in the bed, and I talked to her roommate. She said she wants to sleep all the time. She didn't eat for a day or so, none of her meals, and now they brought it when I was there. She didn't eat. I tried to give her something. I couldn't get her to respond too much, I got her up, but she couldn't even open her eyes. 2 weeks she just wanted to sleep, so I still tried to revive her, like I used to do at home. You know, if he's sleeping, I would, you know, tickle her feet or something. So I did that, and she said, "Stop that, Frankie." So I said, well, she wasn't coughing, she didn't seem congested, she talked, her voice seemed strong, so I figured, okay. When I left, I talked to one of the the nurses there, and she said, well, we're keeping an eye on her, don't worry. And so I went home, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a call that she passed away. I said, oh, I was so lost, you know, by myself now and all. I didn't know what to do. Now, you know, I'm left with money's cut in half, you know, because we combined everything. Now I got all these bills in both of our names, so I tried to get myself together the best I could, you know. And I started, you know, to notify some of the companies myself. There's so many, I guess altogether like 20 accounts. Some in my name, some in hers. We're both on some. So I was looking on the internet, and I punched in one of the banks just to see, you know, what they do, you know, in these these situations. And this lawyer popped up, and I put my name in, and he calls me. I was surprised, you know. Said, I can help you, don't worry, give me the information, and I can stop the calls and all that. So I took care of that, but I kept paying Merrick Bank, and that was the thing, you know. So I figured, well, that's one less, you know, and I still could use it. I had a card and all. I said, okay, I'll do that. Speaking of card, I'm going to show you here the card. Let's see if it'll come up. I don't know if it's going to come up here. I don't know. Doesn't look too... Oh, there we go. There we go. See this, Merrick? See if I can get this, because I'm wearing part of this disguise. Let's see. There it is. Merrick Bank. See it? There's the eagle with the flag. Let's see. Her name is on it. Yeah, it's a nice card. I mean, and you know, these cards are, the expiration date is June 2023. Okay, so that's hers. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I don't know. I want to be able to switch it, you know. Well, maybe I can. There we go. Let's see. I think I can. There you are. Now this one, well, let's see. I put these gloves on. It's sort of like part of the disguise. There we go. Trying to make it show the best I can. Yeah, now my name is on this one. See it? Visa and all. Same thing. It's the same account number. But even though, you know, the card's in her name. So this is the issue right now with this bank. They're calling me about a bill that's not in my name. You can't say they don't know, because there's 2 different names on the account. Okay, that's about it. See that? Let me take that away. So again, you know, this is what this is all about. Okay, so I stopped paying, and after about, I guess about a month or so, the calls started. So of course, they don't know that Marie passed away. So the phone's ringing. So I already had phone logs set up. You know, for each phone number, I just had it. You know, sometimes I'll write things down. Because when the nursing home used to call me, I used to write it down. You know, when the social worker would call me, just to have a record of it. So the phone's ringing. And all of a sudden, landline and cell phone. Okay, so, you know, Merrick Bank is using that auto dollar. Remember that? When she checked that? And then you see why she checked it, right? Why they wanted it. Why? Because the call. They want to use that to make the calls. Okay, so the call started. I let it go, you know, for a couple of weeks. I want to see how this is going. You know, it's annoying. Especially after, you know, I'm still grieving for Marie, you know, and I know how much she liked this account, you know. So let's see, after I waited, like I said, a couple of weeks, since I had this lawyer who took care of all these other accounts, And I had checked, he does do Merrick Bank. So, what did I do? I contacted him. And he said, sure, it's no problem, Frank. I deal with them all the time, so send me the call log. He knows I have all that. He knows I keep that, So he said, send it to me, and I'll start working on it. So right away, the call stopped on the cell phone. Then two days later, it stopped on the landline. So after that, everything was quiet. He's working on it. He filed litigation against them and all. He put down on there, I'm the plaintiff. And, he's put down some calls, that they made. Because there's violations here of the laws. Different laws that he knows. Now, about this permission, well, it doesn't say about permission there. It says the only way they were allowed to use the auto dollar on the cell phone was that you have to give them permission. But now, that permission, that Marie agreed on, when she checked that on the application, well, I don't think it's valid because they combined it with an offer. That should have been separate, that permission. Separate, so that she signed it and would be separate from that offer. Because they may have a provider doing those calls. And so even if Merrick Bank said, tells you that they're going to do it, they're not really doing it if they had a provider do it, a company to do it. So the lawyer knows all this. That's why you have to have a lawyer. You have to, with these situations like this. Okay, so fine, all the calls did stop. I have record of it. I didn't bother too much. I figured, well, it's going to take time, litigation. Because he put down some of the call, on this litigation. He put down the times they called. That's why it's important to keep a phone log. He picked the times when they were kind of close together. So when he submits that litigation, the lawyers, I guess, look at it from Merrick Bank. And if they compare it to their sheet, that they use to make the calls and see those numbers match up, they know you have it, that it's valid. Because it can be checked through the phone company and all. Okay, so everything was good. I went about my business, no more calls. It was quiet. So a month and a half passes. Then what do you think happens? Right after New Year's, on January 2nd, I see a call from Merrick Bank on the caller ID. I said, uh-oh, what's this? I was kind of surprised. Unless it was something to do with the litigation, I figured maybe they wanted to call me about it, So, no message on the answer machine. And when you pick it up, nobody's there. You can't talk to anybody. Okay, so it started. But not on the cell phone. I wonder why. Because they don't know when they're calling that number, if it's me or Marie. Because I don't know. If they know she was deceased. Because the lawyer, maybe he didn't do it. Because part of this litigation is that they're calling me about somebody else's account, not mine. So that's part of this litigation. It's not in my name. And also, she passed away. Plus, I'm getting these harassing phone calls. Plus, they're calling on the cell phone with that auto dollar. And I didn't give them permission. And that permission might not be valid, like I said. Because they combined it with an offer they were giving. Another thing I noticed about that permission. When you have the receipt to pay the bill, on the back it has change of address and phone number. On the very bottom of that slip, it's got work phone and cell phone. And then right below that it says, when you put the numbers down, you're giving us permission to contact you using an auto dollar on the cell phone and make text messages. So that I don't even know is valid. Like I said, if that is coming from Merrick Bank, but if they're not the ones making the calls, so that still might not be valid. So the lawyer knows all this. That's why you have a lawyer. Okay, so that was all taken care of. I noticed, but I noticed on other other accounts that I have, it doesn't have work phone and cell phone. It has home phone and work phone. Different. And they don't have that on there about to call you, because they're not doing it. We have a lot of accounts, we had. And a lot of them are those catalog ones, the mail order ones, and they don't have that. So, the law states that they're allowed to call you, of course. You owe them money. They're allowed to call. I don't deny that. Between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. I'm sure most people know it. But when I get done doing all these videos, I guess everybody's going to know it, for sure. So if not, you do know it. But it doesn't mean they can harass you or annoy you. If those calls were meant to do that, then it's not legal. And something's wrong with it. Because if they're asking permission to call you, what does that mean? They want to call you, no matter what. Law or no law. And Merrick Bank or any other bank, they're not above the law. So that's why I'm doing all this. I want to make people aware of it, that you just can't do that. And see, get away with it. Because they know the worst can happen. They're going to have litigation like they have now. And if they don't want to go to a jury trial, they'll have to try to settle. And I have the lawyer for that. I don't know what is a good deal. I know that they have to pay the lawyer, and they got to pay court costs. And if I do get anything, they'd have to pay me. So I don't really care all about that. I care about those calls. To call me, let's see, November of 2019, I got 19 calls on the cell phone and 43 on the landline. That's over 60 calls. That's only in 2 weeks. Can you imagine if I let that go? And then to top it off, now they're calling starting in January, which I got over 80 calls. I waited a couple of weeks again. I wanted to see. I want to keep track and see what pattern, I noticed there was a pattern. Most of the calls were afternoon and evening. It was like 4 a day. They didn't call me on Sunday. When they called in November 2019, they did call me on Sunday. So that's where, I had the problem with the way. You see how they have different versions of it? There's different versions. What are these versions? Is that special? Is this something top secret that they do? Whether they have lock it away in the safe, the formula for this that they use? That's what it looks like. I know there's different versions of it. Notice does it matter how much you owe? Somebody owes $5,000 and somebody owes $1,000. Are they going to harass them the same way? I don't know. They just have different ways to do it. Because everybody that receives these calls, more than likely you're having problems, financial problems, and those calls don't help the situation that you're in. What do they think? If they put enough pressure on you, that you're gonna give in, or you're gonna get that upset about it, annoying you? Because it is annoying. If it annoyed me, I know it's gonna annoy other people. Except I could see through it more, and I could deal with it. I know, but the reason I know it, you see Merrick Bank come up on the caller ID 4 times a day, and also they got 4 different numbers. No, 5 different numbers. No, wait a minute, 4, 5, 6 different numbers. And so why 6 different numbers? Yeah, I thought about that. 6 different numbers. So every day there's a different number that they use. It comes back to the same one eventually. Do they use that to set the auto dialer with a different number? I think the different number means it goes to a different customer care representative, and that means they can have the calls spread out that way. So whatever number you would call on, a different customer care representative would get the call. So I know when I called there, all the numbers go to a recording, and then they say that someone will be with you shortly. And you know what it says on the recording? Another robot. There's a recording this time, so when you dial the number, one of those numbers, it says, your call is being recorded for quality insurance. Well, assurance or whatever they call it, and someone will be with you shortly. So a lot of people might hang up. They say, I don't want to, I don't want to get recorded. I might say something wrong, So, well, I decided one day to give a call, because these calls are going through the whole month of January. I said, let me call one of the numbers. The recording came in and said, your call is being recorded for quality assurance, and then someone will be with you shortly. The lady picked it up right away. And she says, how can I help you? And I said, well, I'm letting you know that this call is being recorded for quality assurance. She says, I don't agree. First she said she didn't agree. Then all of a sudden she said, well, give me the information. And I gave her the name, the Social Security, whatever she asked me, And it came up, and I said, I'm letting you know that the card holder has passed away. And she says, well, it's not on here. I said, well, I have a lawyer, with litigation pending against Merrick Bank, and I'm the authorized user. And she says, well, hold. She puts me on hold. No, nothing, cold, no compassion, nothing. So she puts that funny music on, and I listen to it loud. I mean, I'm recording this too, remember that. It's on one of the recordings I made not too long ago. Okay, so she comes back. Must have talked to a supervisor, and she says, look, we do need a death certificate. And she said, I can give you the email address, or you can mail it to our office. I said, well, I'm not sending it. I have it. I'm not sending it. I need to contact my lawyer before I do that, but there's a case pending. She says, okay, if that's what you want to do. If it's anything else, I said no, and she hung up. But I also told her that you didn't even give me any condolences or anything about sorry for my loss. Only care about the loss of Merrick Bank's money, huh? They don't care about the loss of a loved one. And she said, oh, well, Merrick Bank don't care about the money. I don't think they authorized her to say that. They reauthorized me to use the account, though. And that's the issue here. There's like a few issues here with this case, and I know that's why I'm so glad that I have a lawyer. Because for me to deal with these people the way they are, I might say something wrong. They're going to try to talk me into doing some kind of program to pay the bill, So the best thing is you should have a lawyer. So the issues here is, first of all, the calls. Now, the calls in November of 2019, well, they were definitely directed to Marie, because she is the card holder. But I'm on it, and the phone numbers are in my name. But the account's not in my name. But to top it off, a month and a half later, what did they discuss it? They know the litigation is in. What did these lawyers or all the bigwigs there, they discussed it and said, well, he's on the account. He put the litigation in. Call him. Maybe we can retaliate against me? That can be against them, making this call. So, what, over 80 calls in January? I mean, that's in about a month. But, by the time I got to the lawyer, I waited. And I told him, he said he'll reach out and he'll make them stop. And eventually they stopped. And I've been doing these recordings about it. I'm just trying to get this information out there. So, that's what really ticked me off. I didn't start doing this until then. That's what made me start doing this. Because I figure, well, if they can hide behind the caller ID, and that robot, I can hide behind the invisible man. You don't see them, do you? You don't see anybody from their office. You don't even talk to them unless you have to call them. And make all those calls, and not one of those calls was with a live representative. Not one. So it's all one-sided there. They have it set up that way, that they figure if they call you enough and bother you enough, that you're going to call them. And that's what they've been doing. Now again, this is why the whole thing is harassing phone calls. If you're getting them, you do not have to tolerate it. Basically, you need to get a lawyer. And the lawyer I have, he's the super lawyer. He's very good. He'll make them stop, If he doesn't charge, remember that. He doesn't charge for the legal fees. It's a free consultation. You're not obligated in any way. And if he does get you any money in a settlement, he doesn't take a percentage. I don't know. You have nothing to lose. So I'll give you his name now. His name is Paul Mankin. And he's got a toll-free number. It's 800-219-3577. That's 800-219-3577. Now he's got a secretary there, or he might answer in a recording. But remember, he's in San Diego, California, and like I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So now you know there's a difference in time there. So wherever you live, it doesn't matter. Because I know, because he's taking care of a lot of cases for me. That's nothing to do with it. The law applies everywhere. So, because look at the banks, for instance, they have accounts all over. So there's no problem there. Everything can be done by email or mail, and I know that for sure. And I'm very appreciative of his service, and that's the reason why I wished I could pay him, because I would. Because I know you got the best possible legal defense, because he knows those laws. He knows them just as good or better than those credit card companies. And they got to be held accountable. And the only way is for consumers like us to come forward, get the legal help, and, go after them. Now, you can put in complaints, to the Consumer Protection Bureau, Federal Trade Commission, your Attorney General in your state. I've done that already. I put it to the Attorney General in my state. I just told them everything, and I wrote it all, spelled it all out, like what I say here. And they contacted me and said that they're going to contact Merrick Bank. They gave me a case number. And Merrick Bank has 21 days to contact them about it. But they can't make them cooperate. So I figured, let Merrick Bank get something else from me, since they like to make all them calls. Well, now they're going to have to make a call to the Pennsylvania Attorney General. They don't have to, but I think with this case pending that I have, because the Attorney General's office is, thanking me for doing that. Because I know this is what helps the situation. If everybody does it, it'll be better for everybody, So you can put complaints in. I know sometimes it's hard to do this. You can do it, by mail. You can look up remember on the computer, you can look up all this stuff, So the best thing to do is, like I said, get a lawyer. I gave you the one I have. There's other ones, there's plenty of them that do that. But I know I wouldn't get a better lawyer than this. Because I know I have experience with all the accounts I had. It's the best there is. That's why I endorse him so much. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because I never had a lawyer before. Not for the credit cards. Because over all the years I had so much credit. I got in trouble for credit. Oh my God. You wouldn't believe it. Over 20 years ago? Let's say probably 30. Because I was getting all these credit cards. It was like over an 8-year period. And I couldn't believe it, I must have had like a compulsive behavior, and I kept getting them. I was using false information. But I didn't get in trouble for the false information. I got in trouble because of the true information. Because my name was on all the accounts as an authorized user. And I was paying the bills. That's the funny thing, paying back and forth. But I was paying. It went over $200,000. Finally, the Postal Service might have been investigating it. And all of a sudden they knock in our doors in our townhouse, and with guns drawn. What do they think? This is a drug bust? They're taking a non-violent crime and they're using violence. Can you imagine that? And that's what I went into. And then I ended up, because it was a botched, their search and seizure mission was botched, because of that, And they inflated the fraud, loss, total, everything to make me have to go to prison for that, So I was railroaded to prison. Marie wrote a book about it. She wrote 3 books, and one of them was Railroad to Prison. And it's all about what happened. She cleared my name and all with that. So again, now that tells you, do I know about credit cards? Sure I do. I had a lot of experience with it. And I don't really like it, you know, to be harassed like that. I have plenty of instances through the years, you know. This is like one of the first times that, you know, I stopped the calls and they start calling again after a little bit of time, you know. Because you can send a cease and desist letter. You have to send it by certified mail with a return receipt. Make sure you send it to the right, you know, the right department. And you just tell them, cease and desist all communication with me. Make sure you have all the information correct on there, your account number and all that, and sign it. And that's, you know, that's really for the debt collector. But some creditors honor that because they figure that way that'll stop litigation and all, you know. But whether you get a lawyer to stop them, or the cease and desist letter, whatever it is, you still owe the debt. You know, you owe it. There's no doubt. In my case, I don't owe it. I don't owe it. It's not in my name. That's where the problem is. Not in my name. So, and that's another thing that they're going to have to deal with. Why are they calling me about somebody else's bill? I am an authorized user, but I'm not responsible for that bill. I'm not a joint card holder. I'm not a co-signer. And we're not legally married. And we don't have an estate to go after. What they have to do is, that bill has to be uncollectible anyway. See, if they would have went ahead and tried to find out, like when, you know, when the first couple months and you're late, I think they should have representatives start calling before they start with the robocalls. But they don't do that. Then they could have found out. I would have told them, look, if we passed away, you know, she won't be able, can't pay it, and it's not in my name. I would have been able to tell them that, and they could have probably avoided litigation and everything, and making all those calls and harassing me and all. But they didn't do that. They have it set up, and all they're going to do is, if you're late, everybody that's late goes on this list. Your number goes in there, and they start calling. Well, I don't think it's a good system. To them, they think it's the best thing going, whether you like it or not. Well, I don't think so, and I wouldn't be doing this if I thought it was so good. And they really ticked me off, you know. It's bad enough that they called in November 2019, all those calls, over 60 calls. But then it started up again. I don't know how the lawyer's going to handle this, you know. He's going to probably use that maybe as leverage to say, well, now you got another case pending, but maybe we'll settle this one and we might drop the other one. So that might be able to use that. I don't know, but it's up to his discretion. When it comes to that part, he's dealing with these banks. He knows how to do it. I'm not interfering. Whatever he says. He knows all about these the videos that I'm making because I share it with him, and I let him know that if he wants me to stop it, I will. So if he thinks there's any problem with it, you know. Because I'm mentioning Merrick Bank a lot. But I also mention any other bank, too, that might be doing that. You know, these unethical tactics, you know. So these calls, you know. Now it's stopped. It's quiet here. That's what I'm concerned with. That's what I make people aware of it, you know. If I post this every day, not the same one, I make a different one. So I want to say different things, you know. I might say it in a different way, and you might decide, you know what, I'm having problems, you know. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Merrick Bank. Any bank that does this, because it is unethical. You know, think about it. You owe money to someone, and you've been paying, all of a sudden you can't pay. Why would you think they would try to treat you a little bit better? Because you've been a valued customer, right? Well, all of it, they treat you like bad by harassing you. I mean, harassment takes, many forms. You know that. It's in the news all the time about, women being harassed by men and all that. All the time. There's all kinds of harassment. It's in the workplace. It's in all different kinds. But these harassing phone calls, I mean, if I feel harassed, I'm harassed. If you feel harassed, more than likely you are being harassed. Because if the calls are annoying, they're not meant to annoy you. You're not supposed to. And you can't tell me when they're dialing these calls automatically every day. And at random, they say it's supposed to be random. I know to a point, but remember, a person has to program that in the computer or in the auto dialer. And then it does it after that. So like I said, all these things I mentioned, you know. I'm going to go back over a couple more things. Now, you know, when you're late, what happened? Late fee, right? I think it's $39. You know, it varies, but say $39. So that means now we owe $1,200, and it was under the limit. You know, when I stopped paying, now it's in over $1,400 now. You know, with the finance charges. So that's still going, huh? So they're going to build that up. So by making these calls and you don't pay, that's getting higher. What does that mean? When they write it off, they got more money to write off, so they're going to take it off their income and then they'll have to pay less taxes. In this case, on my account, well, it's uncollectible, but they still can write it off. They can't collect it. Nobody can collect this bill. If anybody tries to collect this debt, you know, if they write it off, and one of these scavenger debt collectors look it up and they said, oh, well, look at Merrick Bank. They got all these accounts. And they take and they try to collect them. It's a zombie debt. Because once the cardholder passes away and someone tries to collect that bill, they're putting life back into it. So now it's a zombie debt. I'm liable to get called about this debt, who knows, years from now. I'm liable to. But I know about it, so I know that they're not going to get it. I'm not going to pay. You know yourself, the way it works is, not this account. Okay, so you owe bills, like all the other accounts that I had that were in my name. So from the last payment, that's when the clock starts running for the statute of limitations. So it's 4 years in Pennsylvania. So that means those accounts that I wasn't paying before, you know, back before this Merrick Bank, you know, one, last year. So from that date, that last payment date, that's when it starts. So 4 years from that date, that account is legally forgiven, and nobody can collect it. Because debt collectors get these accounts. I know that because I've been contacted for accounts. I just got contacted for an account. It's from about, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago or something. And it says right on it, you know, the debt collector, it says on there, that due to the age of the account, you know, we can't, you know, force you to pay. But they still wanted me to pay. And they're saying that it's not, they can't do anything. And they're still trying. So you have to know this. So if you find out, you have a chance, you can find out the statute of limitations in your state very easy. You just look it up online. Once you know that, then you know what you're dealing with. If you're not paying it, you know, and all of a sudden a debt collector gets the bill a couple of years later, and they call you, and they try to make a deal, and you say, oh, look, they're taking off a couple $100. I could pay $10 a month. You don't want to do that. You don't want to make no deals. Because you're going to start the clock running. Now they can really come after you for it if you don't pay. So be careful what you do. That's why I'm mentioning all this information. I'm trying to inform people, help people, so that, you know, you don't have to put up with it, you know. I mean, I'm sure out there, anybody that's viewing this, there's got to be somebody that is having problems, you know, with either credit or a debt collector. Like I say, you don't have to put up with it. Now, the lawyer I have, you know, been using, like I said, he's very good. I'm glad I have him. Very happy about it. So he's what you call a consumer advocate attorney. So he's already for the consumer, you know. That's his main objective, you know. And of course, he knows the banks that do these unethical tactics. And he likes to go after them. He likes to make them accountable. And plus he can get paid. Now, of course, if he puts a settlement in or something like that, or a case, and it doesn't go through, he doesn't get paid. You don't have to pay him, but if it does, the bank has to pay him. And they have to pay the court costs, and if you get any money, you have to pay. So what happens here, because it happened already with me, I had 3 accounts with one bank. There were 3 different companies, and it was like about $3,000. I had those accounts for like 8 years, and of course the credit they kept giving me more and more credit. So I couldn't pay, and they started with those calls, like on the cell phone and all. They started that. I told them right away. He stopped it right away, and they didn't start calling again or nothing. So finally, it took months, and there was a settlement, and I got paid some money for the calls, and he got paid his court costs, whatever it was, and his legal fees, and plus they took the $3,000 and marked it paid. So that was a pretty good deal. So what happens is he gets paid from them, and then he'll send me a check from his account. And then I can, by mail. He might send it by certain mail, so I'll get it to make sure I get it. I might have to sign or whatever, but that's the way it works, so you know that. My concern here is that the calls stop. And like I said, I'm really ticked off with these calls, If I was putting up with it, in November 2019, over 60 calls, and then it started in January, and right after the New Year, another over 80 calls, and they didn't even call on Sunday either. And that's part of the, I guess, strategy or psychological warfare, whatever this Merrick Bank or any bank does, to try to collect. So they call on Saturday 4 times, right? Sunday, nothing. Oh, good. Relax, you kind of forget about it and all, go about your business. Then Monday, no calls. Wow. All of a sudden, afternoon, you see it. And now I know there's going to be 4 calls. And there was. Maybe 4:30, 5:15, 7:29, 8:47, something like that. So I usually, once I got the 4th call, I would write it down. And this phone log's very important. That's why I said the way I say the things, I emphasize the phone log above everything. So to have a case and maybe can really, make them pay, have the phone log. It's not that difficult, You have to go a week or so to see how the calls are. Now, if it's on 2 phones like I have, you should have one page for each phone. And for the banks too, if you have more than one bank, you should have a separate page. But if you have 2 banks, you could have one bank and have the cell phone, and that same bank have the landline. Separate the calls and the numbers and all that they're calling you. So in this case with Merrick Bank, I noticed that, I think I mentioned it, that they use 6 different numbers. So every day on the landline, it says Merrick Bank, and it has a different number for that day. The next day, Merrick Bank, another different number. So, of course, on the cell phone, it only came up the number. I think if it's an 800 number, that's all that comes up on the cell phone. But if it was a different number, it might come up by the state, So what I was doing after the first week or so, I took all the numbers, when I went to do the call log, I took on my cell phone, and I entered it in the contacts, Merrick Bank, and with that number, that they called. So then when the numbers came up, it said Merrick Bank on the cell phone, so now it was easier for me to do the phone log. Now, if they're calling different numbers, like in the same day, well, you're going to have to write it down, a line for each. But I figured it out. If I'm getting 4 calls a day or 5 calls a day, and it's the same phone number they use, remember, it's the same day, it's the same date. So I found out all you have to do is, on the one line, in your phone log, you put the date, you put the day, you put the phone number they use in any comments, right? Then on the next line, you can write all the calls down. Well, if it was 1:35 p.m., 2:15 p.m., and so forth, right on that one line. So instead of having 4 or 5 lines, you only have 2. And there's another thing you can do in reference to the call log. You don't like writing all that stuff down, you can set it up in the computer. I know I did it with the email. So you can just set it up in the email. You know, just go in there like if you were going to email somebody. And you know, where it says subject, just put phone log, whatever, from Merrick Bank or whatever you want to put. And you can write some stuff down if you want, and then set it up. Just like what I said, you know. You can set it up in the computer. You know, you're not going to send it. You're just going to keep it as a draft. You know, you can keep going in there every day, and you can be typing in all the calls. And then when you're done with it, like say you get the lawyer, then you put in his email address and send it. But once you send it, you know, you can't add anymore. You know, you'd have to do another one, you know, and in the meantime, while the lawyer gets that, you can still continue it again. Or you can do it, like I said, on paper like I did, and then take it from the paper, and then you could type it in the computer and send it to the lawyer. But the phone log's important, so I'm trying to give you all these pointers so that, you know, it'll be easier for you. You know, they keep the track. It's important. You can call a lawyer and say, look, Merrick Bank is calling me 3, 4, 5 times a day on the cell phone, on the landline. Fine. He's going to say, well, I need to know the times, you know. It's important. So, you know, you might say, well, I don't have it, or can you get it? Maybe. You could get it from the phone company, you know, with those numbers. You see how important it is to have the phone log? Because that's the basis of this case. It's the phone calls. Remember that you're being harassed. I think I pretty much covered everything here now. I mean, I have a lot of videos out there. This is the 8th one about these harassing phone calls. I have more. But this is with this invisible man gimmick that I'm using. I have more than this. You know, or you can look it up. You can look up harassing phone calls on YouTube, and all these are going to come up, you know, with other videos from other people. But most of the videos I notice, they're only 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but mine is longer. You know, because I have a lot more to say, you know. I think I covered it pretty good now. So if you're having problems, you don't have to put up with it. I keep saying with these harassing phone calls, I'm going to give you the lawyer again. He's a consumer advocate attorney. His name is Paul Mankin. M-A-N-K-I-N. He's got a toll-free number, no obligation, free consultation, and it's 800-219-3577. That's 800-219-3577. Why don't you give him a call? No obligation. Okay, I'm going to put stuff in the description. You know, I'll mention his address and my contact information also. So I appreciate everybody for listening to this, and I will be posting other videos about this. If there's any changes or anything, I'll keep informing you. You know, I'm trying to keep it fresh, you know, by doing this, you know. I do it one day and then don't do it for a week or whatever. I think it's not as effective. But me doing it pretty much every day, I'll get to different people, you know. And that's what I want to do, get to as many people as I can. So I can help them, just like the lawyer's helping me. And he can help them also. So you have nothing to lose. So if those calls are really bothering you and annoying you, take action. Okay, that'll be it for now. I'm going to sign off. And I thank you for your time. And have a great day.